At some point or another in the last few years, all of us have seen a 2-year-old trying to zoom into a book with their fingers. I mean, it works on an iPhone, so why wouldn't it work on a book? Reading on screens has rewired our brains and the way we think and develop in unimaginable ways, which brings me to why it's important to modify teaching methods in schools to supplement the effects of reading on screens. I'll start off by discussing the issue in Montgomery County in particular. Then I'll explain the cognitive impacts of reading on screens and what we can do to supplement these effects, and why we must act now to improve reading comprehension education to account for screen usage. 5 years ago, MCPS made a drastic change, the introduction of Chromebooks. From following along with lesson PowerPoints to typing essays to reading articles, we began using Chromebooks daily. The most shocking part to me, however, was that Chromebooks were being used in elementary school classrooms. By the 2015 to 2016 school year, Chromebooks were in 3rd through 7th grade classrooms, as well as high school social studies classes. A change in medium may not seem that significant if the content in the curriculum is the same, but there are so many factors that change the way we read on a screen. If children aren't getting the same exposure to reading on paper, what effects should we anticipate, both on their immediate reading comprehension and on their comprehension abilities as they mature? To understand the cognitive impact, I've divided the aspects of reading comprehension into 4 categories based on an analysis of numerous studies in the field: locating information, summarizing, drawing conclusions and inferences, and engagement. In terms of locating information on screens, many computer users today have become dependent on the Control-F search feature, a feature students love. This is creating an upcoming generation whose minds are trained to skim, resulting in more surface-level comprehension, as stated by Associate Professor at Deakin University, Wendy Sutherland-Smith. This instinct to skim is one of the biggest issues with Chromebook use in Montgomery County. In my world history class, we do web quests on a frequent basis. These are usually fill-in-the-blank packets, which we complete using an article online. Rather than reading a 12-page article, scanning for the sentence with the blank or using the Control-F search feature to find it is simply more efficient. But if an honors level class only requires students to be able to scan for phrases in order to succeed, students are not being challenged and prepared for college. Beyond the ability to locate key points of information, a good reader should be able to summarize the essence of a passage and draw inferences from it, a task where the habit of skimming fails us. UCLA professor Marianne Wolf explains that skimming often causes text to lose the prose meaning or the meaning beyond single phrases or chunks of text. However, MCPS says that one of the benefits of Chromebooks is that it empowers students to become creative thinkers. This is because screen reading allows for a greater flexibility in thinking rather than the linear thought process of print text. But students will not be able to reap this benefit if they're comprehending text at a surface level, which is why we must modify classroom instruction to accommodate how students comprehend text on a screen. And the final aspect of comprehension, engagement, provides the basis for the prior 3. According to Marianne Wolf, children are addicted to the increased sensory stimulation that makes up a significant portion of our daily lives. This negatively impacts the attention spans of children growing up in the digital age. Since screens offer greater visual appeal, screen readers are being trained to desire immediate satisfaction, causing cognitive patience or attention spans to decrease. And to provide an example, I have 2 cousins that are now 6 and 3. When the 6-year-old was younger, he wasn't exposed to television at all, but the 3-year-old was. Looking at them both now at that same age of 3, the one who didn't have television exposure was much more willing to sit down and pay attention to an activity. With the introduction of screens in classrooms as early as 2nd and 3rd grade, decreased attention spans will result in difficulties staying focused and completing tasks as the students grow older, making it harder to perform at a high level, let alone at level. Looking at all the evidence, the solution seems to be to stop reading on a screen and keep the paper text alive. But this is simply not practical. First off, printing out a copy of every article for every student would kill entire forests daily. And second, reading on screens is a big part of students' futures, so we need to equip them with the skills to do so successfully. I have a friend at Virginia Tech who says that on average she gets 30 to 70 pages of readings a week, and all of them are on a screen, proving the importance of modifying classroom instruction to encompass this need. Screen reading is not the best way to comprehend text to its greatest potential, but the solution is in the hands of the educators. Since the primary areas of comprehension affected are locating information, summarizing, drawing inferences and conclusions, and engagement, it's important that we address each of these to determine how the negative effects can be mitigated. For locating information, changing the type of assignments given in class to target main ideas and deeper insight questions rather than fill in the blanks would help. The same web quest in my history class could be given with short answer questions asking students to draw conclusions and inferences based upon the text. This ties hand in hand with the third factor I discussed. In order to improve students' ability to conclude as well as their ability to summarize, it's important to change the types of questions being asked to focus more on connections within the text. While some educators may argue that the ability to find information is a crucial skill, there are still plenty of opportunities to teach it without suffering the consequences of doing so on a screen. In English classes, students receive print copies of books, so comprehension questions for these can include locating information. And as for the final factor, engagement, statistically older, more technical texts tend to be harder to read. However, if these texts are taught in classes like AP English Lang and analyzed as a group, students will be better prepared when faced with them in the future. Of course, these proposed suggestions are only the beginning of what we have the potential to change. More research must be done, and the conversation needs to be started among educators and education policymakers to determine exactly how to modify teaching methods. When MCPS first made the switch to Chromebooks, some of their goals were to transform learning environments for teaching and learning in the digital age, foster critical thinking and academic success skills, and support student engagement and increase motivation. But these goals can't be achieved unless we revisit the education methods we use today. In 2016, MCPS students underperformed in college readiness assessments. Only 44.7% of third graders met or exceeded expectations on the English test. MCPS English teacher Catherine Boswell says scores have probably gone down because these tests are now being administered on Chromebooks, and we have not yet switched to teaching screen-based comprehension. Although current teaching methods may have worked for students before the introduction of Chromebooks, classroom instruction must be modified now to supplement the effects of reading on a screen. So the next time you see a 2-year-old hopelessly zooming into a book with their fingers, don't just say it's cute and dismiss it. This is a serious issue that impacts us directly. As teachers, parents, and students in Montgomery County, it is our job to ensure that the school system is preparing students for college and careers to the best of our ability. The impact of reading on screens isn't something that has been given much attention in previous years, and it's time for that to change. Although it may seem like reading is reading, regardless of the medium, there are a multitude of negative effects introduced when switching to a screen. So talk to parents and teachers about changing the way we teach comprehension in schools. Talk to school board officials about introducing Chromebooks at a later age and making changes to the curriculum. Start the conversation with our SMOB. It is our job to bring the issue to light and to make a change. Thank you.